Greetings, fellow travelers, vagrants, explorers, wildlanders, and welcome to episode 78 of the Retro Wildlands. My name is Nomad, and this is my gaming podcast where I like to share my thoughts and experiences with a video game that I have discovered or rediscovered while roaming the gaming wildlands. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. The fire's crackling, the packs are loaded, and Dee Dee, our canine expedition leader, well, Dee Dee has taken today's expedition in a slightly more aggressive direction. Instead of charting forests or sketching out ruins on our travel map, our trusted expedition leader has arranged a large circle of stones in the clearing. He's pacing around it with intense focus, occasionally throwing what I can only describe as a dramatic paw strike at the air. Dexter, our canine head of security and protection, is just sitting at the edge of the circle with his paws crossed. What exactly is going on, you ask? Well, according to Dee Dee, our expedition has traveled far and wide over the last few years, and we've picked up many people along the way. But now, it's time that they prove themselves. And apparently the way that people are going to prove themselves is through one-on-one combat. I do get the feeling that if this turns into a full-on tournament, Dexter is probably going to be putting money on himself. On today's episode, we're traveling back to the early 1990s. The early 90s were a time when arcades were loud, controllers were a bit more durable, and one-on-one competition could make or break a friendship in under 3 rounds. On today's episode, we're talking about a game that didn't just define a genre, it practically was the genre for an entire generation of gamers. I have fond memories of tackling this game by myself because I had no friends to play with, though it was easy for me to see why this game mattered at the time, and still matters today. And that game is Street Fighter II. Now, I'll be honest with you. My history with this game is not necessarily one of mastery. I wasn't the kid memorizing frame data or pulling off flawless dragon punches on command. I was the kid who thought mashing buttons counted as strategy and considered it a personal victory if I managed to land a Hadouken without jumping by accident. Okay, that's a little bit extreme. I was not a button masher, but I did master throwing a Hadouken on command, but really that's about as far as it went. Still, I remember playing Street Fighter II on my Super Nintendo a lot. I can't remember when we got our hands on Street Fighter II or if we even owned it, but I know I played it. Everything about the game stuck with me, from the unique characters to the various stages, the music, and especially the announcer declaring, "Round 1, fight!" like something truly important was about to happen in your living room. Even if I wasn't very good at the game, I remember having an absolute blast. When I look back on Street Fighter II now and what I understand of its legacy, Street Fighter II wasn't just a game, it was an evolving phenomenon. The original SNES release brought the arcade home in a way that felt almost magical at the time. Then, various other versions cropped up, making improvements and opening up new gameplay opportunities for the player. I remember specifically when Turbo came along and said, "What if we made it all just a little bit faster? What if we added just a little bit more? And what if we pushed players just a little harder?" Speaking of Street Fighter II Turbo, that and the original game on the SNES are the ones that I'm most familiar with, so that's mostly what I'll be speaking to and highlighting today. I spent some time with both games again recently, and I had one thought in my mind. We all know how iconic this game is, but is it still fun to play today? Well, we're going to slot this game into our Super Nintendo and play a few rounds together and find out. After traveling the world, fighting multiple opponents, throwing out countless fireballs, and getting my ass beat a fair amount, I have some thoughts. Now, I do want to say this now before I forget, though. I know you diehard fighting game fans are very, very passionate about your genre, and you should be. I absolutely see the appeal. However, if you came to the show today looking for a deep dive into gameplay, a critical analysis of the moves, strategies, or anything really high level like that, you are probably going to be disappointed. This episode and my thoughts on this awesome game are all coming from a fighting game novice who can memorize 1 or 2 4-hit combos at best. So having said that, I just want to temper your expectations a little, and we should have a fun time today. Now, if you're new to the show, I like to kick things off by chatting with you all a bit first in our opening segment, where I give you a peek behind the scenes here in the Retro Wildlands. Depending on what's on my mind, I might talk about what's going on with the show, what games I've been playing, projects I've got in the works, or whatever else happens to manifest in my brain and flow into this microphone. I'll also take some time to read and respond to comments and thoughts that you all shared on our social media pages about Street Fighter 2, so the community gets a chance to sound off. Now, if that doesn't interest you though, and you're just here for the Street Fighter 2 experience, no worries at all. You can skip ahead I'm going to shoot for about 15 minutes, and you can jump right into the game talk. I'll also include timestamps in the show notes so you know exactly where you need to go if you don't want to stick around. But I absolutely encourage you to hang out by the fire just a little longer before we set off. We're going to talk a little video games and some other fun stuff, and I can't think of a better way to prepare for the fight. So, without further ado, let's kick things off with our opening segment that I like to call Campfire Catchup. If you're anywhere near me geographically, you already know this, but Ohio decided it wanted to cosplay as the Arctic for a little while. Well, more specifically, half the United States did. It was cold recently. Not just throw on a hoodie cold, I'm talking about why do I live here cold. It was the cold where you open the door, take one breath, and immediately reconsider every life decision that led you to that moment. Poor Dee Dee and Dexter would step outside, look at me like I personally had something to do with the weather, and then turn right back around and come inside. It was very rough for a little while, and I hope everyone listening that had some crazy weather in your area is doing all right now. As I'm recording this, temperatures are finally starting to climb, at least around here. The snow's starting to melt, the air doesn't sting your face quite as aggressively, and there's that subtle feeling that winter might be losing its grip just a little bit. One can only hope, though. Valentine's Day just passed as well, and I had a really good one. Nothing particularly extravagant, nothing wild, just good, intentional time with my girls, my wife and my stepdaughter. Those two gals mean the world to me, and I appreciate the hell out of them. Life gets busy, work gets stressful, the world gets loud. And it's nice to have both of them keeping me grounded. I posted about this on social media already, but my daughter Cameron just got her driver's permit, and I have to say, I am terrified. But I'm also very excited. By the time you're hearing my words, I would have taken Cameron out a couple times and given her a few driving lessons. She's actually doing pretty well, and I am very proud of her. I just hope she doesn't have any flashbacks to when her and I played Simpsons Road Rage together. Still, I hope all of you listening had an okay Valentine's Day, whether you spent it with a loved one or you just did your own thing. Now, as far as the podcast itself goes, things are steady, and steady is good. I've been keeping up with written reviews over on the website, so if you haven't checked that out in a while, swing by theretrowildlands.com and head over to the expedition log. At the time of this recording, I recently dropped a review of Mario vs. Donkey Kong on the Nintendo Switch, and that one was a fun one to revisit and break down, especially since it just celebrated its second year in existence back on February 16th. It's always interesting going back to something that feels familiar but still has to prove itself in a modern context. Before that, though, I posted a written review of Terminator 2D No Fate. And, I have to tell you, I absolutely loved playing through that game. It scratched that retro action itch in a way that felt authentic without feeling like a cheap nostalgia grab. It's one of those modern retro-style games where you can tell the developers actually get it. The gameplay was tight, the presentation was great, just the whole game was a blast from start to finish. If you haven't read those reviews yet, it would be awesome if you checked them out. And if you want to leave a comment on said review, you can actually create a free account over on the website. And when I say free, I mean totally free, no weird nonsense. You can just sign up and you can jump into the conversation under the reviews. Which, now that I say that, leads me into something that I want to encourage more of this year, and that is interaction. One of the coolest parts of doing this show is hearing from all of you. Whether it's memories of these games that I'm talking about, or disagreements with my takes, or just sharing a fun moment. I love that stuff. So, that said, if you want to chime in, you can absolutely leave comments over on the website. If going to the website's not your thing, you can also find the show on social media. As of right now, the Retro Wildlands has a presence on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I try to post show updates, episode announcements, and sometimes little thoughts about what I'm playing or what it is I'm working on. In between all of that, I love showing off some stuff that's in my gaming collection. All of that together is a great way to stay connected and see what's coming down the trail next, or if you just want to add some retro spice to your timelines and feeds, our social platforms are the way to go. Now, speaking of what's coming down the trail. Earlier this year, I teased that an episode on Fatal Frame 2 is on the way. That is still happening. I definitely have not forgotten. I'm actually gearing up to start that adventure here in the next few days. As long as I can keep my cadence of episodes up like I have been, even if I do have to push one back here and there, that game will be our next long-form show in a few weeks. I wanted to make sure that I did that before the remake drops on March 12th, so fingers crossed that I can stay on track for that. I also have the Fatal Frame 2 remake on pre-order at my local game store, so it'll be fun playing the original and then the remake so close together. As far as other games that I have pre-ordered, which I don't do very often, but there was one more that I absolutely had to get my hands on, and that game is Resident Evil Requiem, which is releasing February 27th. To say that I am excited for this game does not do my excitement justice. Like, I am child on Christmas level excited. Those of you that have been around me long enough know that Resident Evil is one of those franchises that just has its hooks in me permanently. The atmosphere, the tension, the inventory management anxiety. I love every bit of it. I'm so excited for Requiem that I actually took the following Monday and Tuesday off of work. Not just because I want uninterrupted time with the game, though that is absolutely part of it, but also because, well, my day job has been a lot lately. I am absolutely due for a break, and I need to get away from the real-world grind. So I figured, why not take a couple days, unplug from the chaos, and spend some quality time hiding from spooky monsters as Grace, and then killing them all with extreme prejudice as Leon. I'm no therapist, but I feel like that's healthier for my state of mind. Well, probably. And I will absolutely be doing a written review, at the very least, of Requiem for the Expedition log, though I am pretty sure that I will make an expanded audio version for the podcast at some point too, so look forward to that down the road. Alright, and that's where things stand in the Wildlands right now. The weather's thawing, the family's good, the site's active, Fatal Frame 2 is looming ominously in the distance, and Resident Evil Requiem is about to consume a chunk of my late February, early March. It's all gonna be great, but that's later. Now, it's time to transition into the reason that you're all here today. It is time to talk about Street Fighter 2. As is tradition here in the Wildlands, let's check in with the community and use some of your thoughts, comments, and memories to set the table. Our first comment came in from Rob Beard, who chimed in over on our Retro Wildlands Blue Sky page. Rob said, "I remember when my friend got an SNES with Street Fighter II bundled in. I borrowed it for a night and played it to death with another friend so I could get the hang of it and finally beat my Street Fighter II owning friend at it. I loved wiping the smug grin off his face." Rob, my friend, this is diabolical, and I absolutely support this. You trained in secret. You basically did a Rocky montage focusing on pure preparation, and then you returned to dethrone the reigning champion in his own living room. There is something deeply satisfying about studying in the shadows and then revealing that growth at exactly the right moment. And that smug grin disappearing, that's a core childhood memory right there. I really wish I had that experience growing up, but alas, even with my cousins around here and there, such is the fate of an only child like me. Staying on our Blue Sky page, Poppy the Keaton sounded off and had this to say. "Street Fighter II made yoga seem much more exciting than it actually is. That's all I got." You know, Poppy, that's fair. If yoga involved fire breath and the ability to stretch your limbs across the entire room, I think participation rates would skyrocket. I've never once been in a yoga class and heard someone yell, "Yoga Flame," before, dramatically launching fire across the studio, and frankly, that sounds like a missed opportunity. Dhalsim really sets some unrealistic expectations for flexibility, and we'll be discussing him at length in the main part of the episode, so stay tuned for that. Speaking of Dhalsim, Chris, my good old buddy and pal, reached out over on our Facebook page and said, "Loved this game when it first came out. I liked E Honda for his ability to strike fast or at range sometimes, however, my favorite to play was Dhalsim. For whatever reason, his flexibility, low attacking style, and exceptional reach appealed to me. Maybe it was because my least favorite aspect of any fighting game is getting trapped in the corner. I used these characters to make my brother rage quit more than once, which is all you can really ask for from a fighting game when you're around 7 years old. I'm excited but nervous to see the new Street Fighter film coming out, but I think either way, I'll leave happy if E Honda and Dhalsim manage to make cameos since they're not the A-list characters." Chris, I respect this deeply, and poor Pat for always getting the raw end of the deal, but it's sort of like all those times you beat me at Stratego. Don't think I didn't forget about all of those times. Now, first of all, E Honda and Dhalsim is a wildly specific combo of favorites, and I love it. Honda's thousand hand slap and Dhalsim's stretchy limb zoning are basically the blueprint for "you will not enjoy approaching me." And your reasoning totally makes sense. If your least favorite thing is getting trapped in the corner, then of course you gravitate towards the characters whose entire identity is all about controlling space. As for the new Street Fighter film, I'm right there with you. Currently, I'm cautiously optimistic, slightly nervous, but yes, if we get even a solid Honda headbutt or a proper Dhalsim Yoga Flame, that might be enough to send us home smiling. Hanging out on Facebook, let's check in with Curtis, who wrote in and said, "Street Fighter II used to be one of my absolute favorite games. It was an arcade staple, and I was super excited when I got it for my SNES. Until the day Mom made me let my sister play. She was a severe, all capital letters, severe button masher. And she won, and kept winning. I don't think I ever beat her, no matter how many combos I knew and tried. I was a bit less enthusiastic after that." Curtis, first of all, thank you for your bravery in sharing this trauma with the class. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, more humiliating than studying combos, learning special inputs, feeling like you've ascended to a new level of skill, only to be defeated by someone whose entire strategy is press the buttons, Hulk smash. It's funny, Street Fighter II has this magical quality where disciplined technique and wild chaos can occasionally intersect. And somehow, chaos seems to win more often than not. It's far beyond my comprehension though, because I'd be in the same boat as you. Sometimes I'll play fighting games with my kids, and despite my best efforts, my button-mashing stepdaughter usually gets the last laugh, and it is brutal. Our last comment comes in from Caps Off Gaming, who reached out over on our Instagram page. They said, "My friend and I would play Street Fighter 2 at the local bowling alley during spring break. We were playing in a basketball league and would dip out before our parents would come and pick us up to get a few rounds in. Great times." Now see, this is the stuff that I love. Street Fighter 2 at a bowling alley during spring break is such a specific time capsule moment. Closing my eyes, I can picture it perfectly. The sounds of pins crashing in the background, maybe the faint smell of pizza and rental shoes, and two kids trying to squeeze in just one more round before mom or dad showed up. My parents were actually part of a bowling league when I was younger too, but my game of choice was the light gun shooter Area 51. Oh man, do I miss that game. While I didn't have to sneak around, there's something about those quick, almost secret gaming sessions that stick with you more than the long ones. You weren't grinding for rank, you weren't analyzing frame data, you were just chasing that feeling. Great times indeed. A huge thank you to Rob, Chris, Curtis, Caps Off Gaming, and Poppy the Keaton for writing into the show. If you want to get in on the action, all you have to do is follow us over on one of our social media platforms. I'll put a call out for comments while I'm preparing the script for an upcoming episode, so that's your way to sound off if you want to be featured on an upcoming episode of the show. I also frequent channel3.gg, a really awesome gaming-centric social media platform, and when I remember to, because I certainly didn't do it this time, I will put a call out for comments over there too, so shout out to the crew. Originally released in arcades in 1991, before making its way to the Super Nintendo in 1992, Street Fighter 2 wasn't just another fighting game trying to grab a few quarters. Capcom set out to create something competitive, something character-driven, something that would reward skill while still being flashy and accessible enough to pull in anyone brave enough to step up to the cabinet. For me, though, my experience was strictly thanks to the Super Nintendo. This was the arcade experience, or at least something incredibly close to it, that was running in our living room. 8 distinct world warriors. Unique stages across the globe, special moves that required actual intention instead of button mashing, though many of us tried the button mashing approach anyway. With its tight controls, colorful presentation, unforgettable soundtrack, and that booming announcer declaring each round like it was a title fight, Street Fighter 2 immediately felt bigger than most games sitting on store shelves at the time. But that was then, and this is now. And the question that I want to answer is Street Fighter 2 fun to play today, or is it purely a relic of the past? Well, my friends, that is what we're going to find out today. So, let's get ready, Wildlanders. Stretch those thumbs, steady your breathing, and step into the ring. We're traveling the globe, challenging the world's fiercest fighters, and putting this legendary brawler to the test. The time has come to dive into Street Fighter 2 and see how this world warrior holds up in the ever-growing legacy of retro video games. Over the years, as I've made my way through retro video games, I've noticed that when people talk about retro games, certain titles always rise to the surface. They're not hidden gems, they're not cult classics, they're pillars. Pillars as in the kind of games that don't just get remembered, they get referenced, they get studied, re-released, debated endlessly in comment sections and message boards, and they're always the base for discussions around a specific time or genre. Street Fighter II is one of those games. It's a game that didn't just succeed, it shifted the landscape. For a lot of players, it defined what a fighting game was supposed to be. Competitive, tactical, character-driven, loud, in all the right ways. And while I feel like I saw all of that when I was a kid, and I absolutely see all of that now as an adult, none of that really resonated with me personally. Back in the day, I wasn't the arcade kid stacking quarters on the cabinet. I wasn't memorizing combos out of magazines or dominating sleepovers with flawless victories. Wrong game, but you get the idea. I was just a kid with a Super Nintendo and a controller that probably got more abuse than it deserved. I can't remember when it was that I originally played Street Fighter II, but I absolutely remember it. So many intense battles, so many victories, just as many defeats, and countless times where I would be gripping my controller just a little too tightly because I could not get Ryu to do the Dragon Punch when I needed him to. Still, the magic of this game consumed me, and a lot of that had to do with the cast of characters. Ryu, Ken, Chun-Li, Guile, Blanca, Zangief. Even if I didn't fully understand their movesets, I knew that they were distinct. They had personality, they felt like real competitors, they felt like real, dare I say, world warriors. Now, this is usually the part of the show where I ask, so what is this game? And proceed to peel back the layers a bit and use that to jump into some gameplay. But I've written and rewritten this part of the podcast script a few times, and I honestly don't think this game needs an introduction. This is one of those rare games I feel both gamers and non-gamers know of already. I will say, though, when I was a kid, there was one thing I didn't really understand. Why, exactly, was everybody fighting in this game in the first place? We had the SNES instruction manual back in the day, and it did not have a dedicated section setting up the story. Well, not like most fighting games have a fantastic story behind them anyway. The only hint I ever remembered getting was from the section in the manual that went over each character's bios in detail. Chun-Li, everyone's favorite long-legged powerhouse, was tracking the movements of an international smuggling operation known as the Shadaloo, and their trail has led her to the tournament everyone is fighting in. One of the tournament grandmasters may have been responsible for the death of her father. I would have to imagine that's referencing the game's final opponent, M. Bison. I'm pretty sure things get expanded upon in later versions of the game, but at the time, and even now as I record this, I have no idea the lure behind this series. And really, I didn't need that, nor do I need it now. Street Fighter II, to me, is all about the characters and the fights themselves. Though I do have to call out something that I always found hilarious. Most people know who Ryu is. He's more or less the poster child for the series, I'd say. Hailing from Japan, he's the one in the white gi and the red headband for those who can't picture him. He's your typical warrior. Cool, calculating, and patient in battle, says the instruction manual. Also in the game is Ken Masters, who is more or less Ryu's opposite, though they share the same moveset. While Ryu is this cunning warrior, Ken is described in the instruction manual like this.
Ken's natural fighting skill has fueled his giant ego, and he is constantly reminding his opponents that he is the greatest fighter of all time. For the past year, Ken has let his skills deteriorate and has spent most of his time on the beach with his girlfriend. Only a challenge from Ryu has rekindled his fighting spirit.
So I take two lessons away from Ken's biography here. One, it's probably not a good thing to lean on your ego. Certainly makes Ken sound like a loser, am I right? But number two, and probably the most important, you should never, ever get yourself a girlfriend or significant other, or else your skills will erode away and you will be worthless to those around you. Do not be tempted, World Warriors. Stay on the path. I don't know why that made me laugh, but there you have it. The real magic of this game, though, was, of course, the fighting itself. When the announcer said, "Round 1, fight," it didn't feel like you were starting just another level. For me as a kid, it felt serious. Now, whether I was actually good at the game, though, is another story altogether. Generally, when I played, I mashed buttons probably more than I should have. I jumped too much. I accidentally pulled off special moves and pretended I meant to do that. I would lose to the computer more often than I'd like to admit, but I kept coming back to it. Because even when I didn't fully grasp the mechanics, Street Fighter II still had a way to make me feel electric. And when I realized that some of the special moves were in the manual, oh man, that changed everything. Well, whenever I was able to pull off a special move, but we'll get into that later, believe that. Looking back on it all now, I can see why I fell in love with this game. The colorful stages set around the world, the music that instantly matched each fighter's intensity, the exaggerated animations. It was bold, confident, bigger than a lot of games that I had played up to that point. But here's the thing about nostalgia. It has a way of polishing memories. It has a way to keep the way you felt about something intact, and it sometimes helps you forget the frustration. It remembers the fireballs. It forgets how many times you got knocked out trying to throw one. So, sitting down with the Super Nintendo version now, as an adult, I wanted to see what was really there. Was Street Fighter II great because I was young and impressionable, or is it still mechanically strong, still tight, still worth playing today? Well, there's really only one way to find out. We're going to slot this game into our Super Nintendo and square up with a few opponents. Actually, I have a slight confession. I do not own Street Fighter II anymore, but I do own a Super Nintendo Classic, which has Street Fighter II Turbo installed on it, so that's the version that we're going to play today. For the record, they're more or less the same overall experience. The OG Street Fighter II was a pretty slow and methodical experience, coming with only 8 characters to play as. SF2 Turbo improves on the game in a few ways. For starters, the game is much faster and smoother, hence Turbo, but it also allows you to play as the 4 boss characters, Balrog, Sagat, Vega, and M. Bison. Characters were balanced out a little bit more too. Super combos were introduced, and you could toggle the speed higher if you were a psychopath. They added a couple little things along the way as well, like the game's announcer calling out the names of the countries that you would go to between stages. Either way, that's the version we're playing, so let me get my SNES Classic powered up and we'll get to it. There we go. I have said it before, and I will say it again, I love this little system. So many awesome titles on this thing. Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario Kart, Star Fox, Earthbound. Here we go. Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting. I will say, compared to the box art of the original Street Fighter II that I had, this one is much cooler. E. Honda is front and center, administering his famous 100-hand slap to Sagat, one of the bosses of the first game. I have to imagine including the 4 boss characters in SF2 Turbo was a huge thing back in the day, though I will admit, such a thing didn't really interest me. I don't think I mentioned it yet now that I think about it, but Ryu has always been my favorite character. A basic pick, I'm sure, but I always appreciated that somewhat stoic, leader-type character, and Ryu always seemed to fit that bill for me. And come on, he tosses fireballs, what's not to love? And if for some reason someone decides to jump over that fireball, insert Dragon Punch. Anyway, let's select the game on screen and start our quest to be the World Warrior. On screen, we see one of those copyright screens where the name of the game is displayed. We can also see Capcom and Nintendo mentioned on screen, but who am I kidding? No one remembers this screen. everyone remembers the next one. It's the one where the yellow and blue Capcom logo appears on screen in dramatic fashion. Oh yeah, that's why we remember it, that little tone right there. Once the Capcom logo fades away, the next screen shows the logo for Street Fighter II. In a flash, the word Turbo scrolls across the screen, and all at once, the full logo for Street Fighter II Turbo Hyper Fighting appears. Oh yeah, there it is. It's not flashy, it's not all that memorable, but this title screen marks the beginning of the journey, my friends. Once we press our start button, we have some options. First up, we can see the word Turbo with a few star icons to the right of it. Selecting Turbo plays SF2 with Turbo rules and moves. I honestly have no idea what those are specifically, but that's what the manual says. What really matters, though, are the stars you see there. We can set the game's overall speed by pressing the directional button on our controller either left or right to increase or decrease stars. 4 stars is the highest rating, no stars is normal speed. For as fast as this game can get, I have to say I am pretty impressed with it on a technical level. Regardless of speed, supposedly this game will hold a firm 60 frames per second if the internet is to be believed, and that's pretty damn awesome if it's true. However many stars you want is up to you, but for the sake of the show, let's go with no stars. Things are going to be fast enough, and I'll be over your shoulder talking you through everything, so just makes sense to go at the normal pace for now. It's worth noting that underneath the turbo option is a normal option. The instruction manual says this version of the game is normal speed and follows the quote-unquote Champion Edition rules and movesets. I'm not gonna lie to you all, I tried looking up what those rules might be and I didn't really get anywhere. The Champion Edition of the game is a version that I'm not really all that familiar with, so my apologies for not having that info front and center here. Now, the last thing on screen is an options menu. Let's actually head in there for a moment and check out a few things. Toggle down to it and press your start button. In the option menu, there's a couple things that we can tweak. We can remap some of the controls if we want. We can also toggle whether or not the game has a time limit. But most importantly, we can adjust the game's difficulty. Now, I've always been the sort of person who plays my games on the normal difficulty or whatever balanced difficulty the developers intended. And how you play your games is up to you, but personally, I recommend bringing down the difficulty in Street Fighter II just a little bit, even if it's only temporary to start. Reason being, there is no practice mode and you're going to want to get used to your moves without the computer opponent being overly aggressive. That said, dial the number of stars down to 1 or 2 and you should be good. Got it? Alright, back out and head back to the title screen. Alright, that should get us set up. Go ahead and select Turbo now. After you do, we'll get another submenu. We can either select Game Start or Versus Battle. Versus battles are one-on-one fights with another player, so if you have a friend, loved one, or a random person to play the game with, the both of you can go toe-to-toe with each other in this game mode. I think one of the neater things about SF2 Turbo is players can now select the same fighter, which I'm pretty sure isn't something you could do previously. Keep that in mind if you make a friend or have some friends to play with. For now, though, select Game Start and let's begin our journey to become the Tournament Grandmaster. Alright, here we are, the Character Select screen. If the title screen didn't get the nostalgia flowing for those of you who've played this game before, the Character Select screen sure as hell will. At the top of the screen is a map of the world with almost a dozen locations on it. Down below, we have our roster of fighters. Ryu and E Honda from Japan, Guile, Ken, and Balrog from the USA, Blanca from Brazil, Chun-Li from China, Zangief from the USSR, Dhalsim from India, Vega from Spain, and finally Sagat and M. Bison from Thailand. From here, it's up to us to choose which fighter we take through the game, and if it's not evident, each fighter more or less has a different playstyle. We'll talk more about some of the characters as we fight them, but I did want to call out who I thought would be good picks depending on your playstyle and skill. In my mind, Ryu, Guile, and E Honda are great beginner choices. Ryu is a solid pick as he's more or less an all-rounder. When it comes to fights, which we'll get into here shortly, a lot of what we're actually going to be doing is controlling the battlefield space as opposed to straight up fighting, if that makes sense. Ryu's Fireball is great for covering long distances, his Dragon Punch is your anti-air option, his Hurricane Kick gives him some mobility, and is otherwise balanced all over. Guile here is all about defensive control. His iconic Sonic Boom attack can be spammed over and over again, making it great for controlling your opponent's movements, and he has some solid attacks otherwise. Honda is just a big fat bully. He's designed to be used up close and personal, hitting hard without relying on you needing to learn a ton of combos to be effective, and he's got an interesting special move that'll allow him to close the gap in case there's a little bit of distance there. For right now though, let's select Ryu. He's my personal favorite, and since he's a pretty good all-rounder like I mentioned, he's going to be able to help us get our bearings as we learn the game's basics. That said, move your cursor back to him and select him. After we make our selection, we can see an icon for a plane appear over Japan. It takes off and heads towards our first destination and our first opponent.
USA!
Prepare yourself, my friend. Our first fight is against the all-American ex-Special Forces operative, Guile. The screen fades and the next thing we see is a portrait of Ryu on the left and a portrait of Guile on the right. The time has come. It is time for a fight.
Round number 1, fight!
Alright, this is it, your first fight. We'll see Ryu on the left-hand side of the screen with Guile on the right. Guile, outfitted in military pants and a tank top, is probably one of the more recognizable characters thanks to his signature flat top. He may be one of the fighters I called out as being great for beginners, but don't think that makes him a pushover. You're going to have a solid fight on your hands, so let's get ready. Now, before we get to it, a couple quick things on the screen that I want to call out. At the very top, both Ryu and Guile have a life gauge. See the yellow bar at the top there? As you or your opponent take damage, that bar will decrease. Once it's empty, you're knocked out and you'll lose the round. Conversely, if you empty the life gauge of your opponent, they are knocked out and you win the round. These fights are set to where you have to win 2 out of 3 rounds to be victorious. Sounds easy enough, right? You'll also need to be mindful of the time if you left that on. Under the health bars are the numbers 99, which will count down once the fight begins. Once the timer reaches 0, the round is over, and whoever has the most health left over will win that round. Alright, that's really all the important stuff on screen. You have a score indicator higher up and you get points as you go, but I never really cared much about the score system. The only score system that I really care about is counting how many teeth I knock out. Now, there's several ways to attack, damage, and maim your opponents, but let's start with the basics. For starters, you have 3 basic punches: a light punch, medium punch, and hard punch, which you can throw with your Y button, X button, and the L button respectively. The lighter the punch is, the quicker it's going to be, but damage is going to be less. Your hard punch is slow, but if it connects, it'll do some pretty decent damage. It's all a simple concept pretty through and through. Now, why don't you introduce yourself to Guile with a few light jabs, followed by a hard punch? There you go. See the difference in timing versus damage? Keep that in mind as you go. It'll be imperative that you decide what types of attacks will work best in a given scenario. Now, other than punches, you can also kick your opponent. Same idea as punching, you have 3 levels of kicks, a light kick, medium kick, or hard kick. Depending on your character, kicks typically have slightly longer range. I will say that whenever I fight, I tend to favor kicks for this reason. Is it the best strategy? Probably not, but it works for me sometimes. Let's try out some kicks on Guile and get a feel for him. Get closer to him again and let him have it. Yeah, great hits. I love Ryu's hardest kick where he plants a roundhouse across your opponent's face. And it sounds so satisfying when it connects. Guile's life bar is about half gone now, but watch out. Looks like he's done being our punching bag. Guile starts moving towards you, be careful. Oof, those hurt a little bit. Obviously we want to avoid taking hits, and lucky for us, there's a few ways we can do that. First, we can block incoming attacks by holding backwards on our directional pad. Our character will move backwards while we do this, so keep that in mind. If you need to retreat or throw your hands up, move backwards. Sounds simple, but ready to try it? Alright, good, because here comes Guile with a strong punch. Get ready. There you go, nice! When an attack is incoming, the game is smart enough to have your character enter a blocking stance so long as you're pressing backwards on the directional pad. Your character will even stop moving too when this happens. You'll take no damage when you're blocking normal attacks, but you will take a little bit of what I like to call chip damage if you block a special move, like a fireball for instance. Either way, now that we've blocked Guile's attack, we should see about getting back on the offensive. Uh-oh, wait a second. Oh crap, here it comes. By whipping his hands and arms through the air, Guile creates a burst of energy called the Sonic Boom.
Sonic Boom!
Watch out, it's heading right towards you. Damn, that frickin' hurt. Careful though, one more incoming.
Sonic Boom!
Quick, block! Nice, but we still took a little bit of damage there. And here comes another one.
Sonic Boom!
Okay, it is time to get aggressive. Pressing up on the directional pad will allow your character to jump upwards. As one would expect in a fighting game, we can attack while jumping. And, as one would also expect, we can jump towards our opponent before doing this, which is exactly what we're going to do now. Pressing up and to the right on your D-pad, we're going to jump over Guile's Sonic Boom, and on the way down, we're going to hard kick him right in the face. Better yet, when we land that kick and hit the ground ourselves, we're going to crouch down and hard kick again, sweeping Guile off his feet. It's gonna be quick, so are you ready? Good, now jump. Nice, now press the R button. Hell yeah, now press down on the D-pad to crouch and sweep. Yes, do not let up. See if you can press the advantage here. While standing, let loose another hard kick with the R button. Yeah, baby! With his life bar depleted, Guile is down and the round is yours.
You win!
Ryu throws his fist in the air in triumph as you're given a score bonus based on how much health you had left and the overall time remaining. Great work, but that was only the first round. Get ready for the next one.
Round 2, fight!
Alright, good stuff in the first round, but it's time to take it to the next level. If Guile is out here throwing out sonic booms, I think it's time we reciprocated by throwing out our own projectiles. Let's send a fireball downrange, shall we? Now, thank God for the instruction manual, or else my younger self would have had no idea how to pull off any special moves. Now, the thing about special moves is that a decent amount of them require you to manipulate the directional pad in a specific way, and then throw a punch or a kick at the right moment. Let's take Ryu's fireball, for instance. I have to imagine those of you who played this game before probably have this one memorized, right? I mean, it's special. It's the special move. And for the most part, it's pretty easy to pull off. Using the directional pad, assuming Ryu is on the left-hand side of the screen, you have to press down, down right, and then press a punch button. The thing is, it has to be one continuous motion, so basically, you're rolling your thumb and then pressing the punch button. Does that make sense? It's easier in practice, so let's go ahead and give it a try. Oop, didn't quite get it there. Ryu just threw a normal punch. Go ahead and try again. Damn it, still didn't work that time. Come on, concentrate. Let's try this one more time. Ah, god damn it! It's not that hard! Let's go! Ah, damn it. While we're over here flailing around like an idiot, Guile is taking advantage. Come on, you can do this. Trust your instincts. Believe in your thumb.
Hadouken!
Yes, you got it! A blue fireball heads towards Guile, and it is glorious. Nice. Suck on that, Guile. Not only does the fireball do some pretty decent damage, it is a great way to control the play area. When Ryu launches his fireball, your opponent either has to take the hit, block the hit, or try and jump over it. Speaking of jumping over it, that's where Ryu's Dragon Punch comes in. This special move has Ryu jumping forward in the air with his fist raised. This is what we like to call an anti-air move. Sure, it can hit enemies on the ground, but the Dragon Punch is great for airborne enemies trying to jump towards you. One strategy players like to employ is having Ryu throw out a fireball, and if the enemy jumps over it, quickly counter with a Dragon Punch. Think you got what it takes to give that a try? Alright, here's the command for it. You have to press forward on the D-pad, then down and to the right, at which point you throw a punch. This one's tricky, and it's going to hurt your thumb, but give it a try.
Shoryuken!
Oh, damn! First try! You're a hell of a lot luckier than I ever was. I can't pull that move off consistently even if I tried. The more powerful a punch that you throw at the end of the combo, the higher and faster Ryu will sail, so keep that in mind. Anyway, when you're ready, let's spam Guile with some fireballs. It's only fair with all the sonic booms he's been throwing.
Hadouken! 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 Hadouken!
There he goes, he jumped over that last fireball. Quick, Dragon Punch!
Shoryuken! You win!
Yeah, take that, Flat Top! While that was not the most honorable win, it's still a win. With both rounds taken, we've officially won the fight. Nice work. The screen goes black and it's soon replaced with a close-up of Ryu on the left and Guile on the right, though Guile looks like he's gotten the shit beaten out of him, which is exactly what happened. In text form, Ryu tells Guile that he has to defeat his Dragon Punch to stand a chance. Oh, how true that statement is. Great work on that first fight, but don't get too complacent. It's only going to get harder from here as we take on our next challenger. Back to the world map, we hop back on our plane and head to our next, I assume, random destination.
China!
Our next opponent is Chun-Li, arguably one of the more popular characters in the Street Fighter series. Like I sort of mentioned earlier, I didn't grow up with the series at all, and I didn't spend tons of time with it as I got older. While I don't really have any sort of nostalgia around Chun-Li, or any of these characters for that matter, it is almost impossible to not see Chun-Li's impact. As far as I can tell, she's considered the first lady of fighting games, and set the bar for female characters in the genre. While females are largely considered the quote-unquote weaker sex, Chun-Li's character challenged that notion. She's fast, agile, and has some, let's say, powerful lower body strength. She has a unique moveset that allows her to be offensive with some awesome moves that really turn up the pressure, but she also can use those moves to put up a solid defense. Chun-Li has a special move similar to Ryu called the Whirlwind Kick. I always got a kick out of this move, pun intended, because it looks so similar to Ryu's Hurricane Kick, except that Chun-Li is upside down and she strikes her opponent with it more so if she connects. But probably her most common special move is her Lightning Kick. With this move, she'll stand in place and repeatedly kick in front of her. Years of training have allowed Chun-Li to develop this move, and she kicks, well, like lightning. This is a great move that allows her to deal decent damage if it connects, or it can be used in a defensive fashion if Chun-Li needs to keep opponents at a distance, though projectiles will still strike her. And you know what? That actually reminds me of a larger thought that I had while playing this game. I've kind of touched on it a little bit here and there, but in a lot of ways, fights aren't just about striking your opponent. They're about controlling the space that your opponent and you occupy. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll get into it, but we probably should start the fight. It is very rude to keep a lady waiting after all.
Round 1, fight!
Alright, champ, go get her while I finish my thought. Oh, and watch out for her legs. They can be deadly. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, right. Controlling space. As I played more and more of this game recently, I tried paying more attention to how the game works mechanically. Now, that sounds like something a smart person would say, and I want to be clear, I am not smart when it comes to these kind of games, but the more I paid attention to each fighter's moves, I realized that a lot of the moves themselves were designed not just to damage your opponent, but they're used to control space. Here's what I mean. A game like Street Fighter II, like most fighters of the time, had fighters on a 2D plane. You can move forward, backward, or jump in some ways. You can't sidestep incoming attacks, you can only hope to jump over them, be far enough away from them, or block them. Ultimately, to win the fight, you have to damage your opponent, sure, but to do this, you have to either get close or loose an attack that will hit them. And that's not always easy when you consider your opponent and the moves that they have to use against you to control the space in which you can operate. It's a basic example that I've already used, but it bears repeating. Look at Ryu, for instance. His fireball attack can technically reach the other end of the screen, and I am almost positive that you cannot duck underneath it, so you have to either block it or jump over it. When Ryu lets a fireball go, the opponent only has those few options. Now, think about his Dragon Punch. The range of that move is more vertical, since it's an upward strike. Using a fireball, you'll control the space in front of you. Now, if the opponent tries to take that control away by jumping over the fireball, you can deploy a Dragon Punch to potentially knock your opponent out of the sky. If your opponent blocks the fireball, they'll take chip damage, and then you'll have the opportunity to move in closer to them, not just controlling space, but now taking that space up for yourself. It's almost a little unfair when you think about it, but part of the strategy is keeping moves like that in mind that you can use, as well as keeping moves and combos in mind that you can use to defend yourself against these control tactics. It's kind of interesting in that way, and when I think about moves like this, it kind of turns Street Fighter II into a game of chess. You want to be thinking a few moves ahead of your opponent if you can. And when an advantage presents itself, like good positioning, you absolutely cannot hesitate and you need to strike. Do you know what I mean?
Hadouken! Hadouken! Shoryuken!
Oh yeah, you know what I mean. Look at you go, controlling space, good stuff. That's the kind of stuff I wish I could do if I wasn't so bad at entering the command for that Dragon Punch. Now, get in there, press the advantage, and finish her off.
You win!
Hell yes. Whether it's using special moves or just normal attacks in a way that controls the space and limits your opponent's options, it never gets old when you finally put your opponent in the dirt.
Round 2, fight!
Okay, now do all of that again and show Chun-Li that you are worthy of the World Warrior title.
Hadouken!
Oops, she jumped over your fireball, but no worries. You're in a perfect position for that trusty dragon punch, so let her have it. Oh, crap, it didn't work. Quick, try again. Remember, it's forward on the D-pad, down, then down right, then punch. Shit, you missed it again. Damn it, this is not the time to be playing like me. Chun-Li lands in front of you and starts an attack. Watch out, here comes her whirlwind kick. Quick, pull back and block. Whew, good reflexes. Though, watch out, she's right on top of you now. Ooh, she used a throw on you and chucked you to the ground. When you get close to an opponent to the point of touching them, you can press the L shoulder button and it'll initiate a throw. Throws deal some pretty decent damage too, so it's something to keep in mind for both offense and defense. Now, be careful getting up here. Chun-Li is right on top of you, and if she lets loose her lightning kick, it's gonna hurt. Ah, damn it, I shouldn't have given her the idea.
You lose!
Son of a bitch! Well, you can't win them all, right? Anyway, get back up, dust off, and get ready for the last round.
Round 3, fight!
Alright, gloves are off. Let's teach Chun-Li a lesson that she won't forget. Okay, get in there. Let's jump forward, kick her in her pretty head, then crouch down and leg sweep. You've done it before, let's use heavy attacks. Now go! Nice. Hit her with a punch or two, then let her have a taste of fireball.
Hadouken!
Good. You're close enough to her now, so why don't you give her a throw of your own? Excellent. You've got the momentum and you've got her cornered. Finish her off with a hurricane kick. This is a new move, so listen up. Roll your thumb like you would for a fireball, just do it in the opposite direction and press a kick button.
You win! Perfect!
Oh my god, doesn't that feel good? I have to admit, you are a hell of a lot better at this game than I ever was. I mean, I'm sure I could get there, but it takes some talent pulling off special moves like that. Well done. Alright, that's another one down. Back to the world map, we get to see where we're heading next.
India!
India. Crap. We gotta fight Dalsum.
Round 1, fight!
While a lot of Street Fighter's cast of characters are pretty memorable, and I argue a decent amount of people would recognize a lot of them, I feel like most everyone knows about Dalsum. Standing at 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing a meager 107 pounds, Dalsum has worked to unify his body, mind, and soul through the discipline of yoga. He is not one to go toe-to-toe with an opponent, but instead, he prefers to keep them at a distance and wear them down with his patience and his unnatural ability to stretch his limbs. Yeah, you heard that right. Just like Stretch Armstrong, Dalsum can reach long distances with his fists and his kicks, which is very, very annoying. And if you do manage to get close to him, he has the ability to literally breathe fire. Yeah, this guy is just the worst. I have vague memories of playing with friends, and anytime someone used Dalsum, I died a little inside. I mean, he's a slower fighter and he kind of floats a little bit when he jumps, so in theory, he's easy to lay a beating on, but you have to get past his long reach, and that is not always easy. Still, I think you've learned enough about area control and have a decent handle on Ryu's specials that you have a fighting chance, so let's give it a shot. I will say, the one move that I remember getting hit with a lot is where Dalsum crouches down and then punches with both fists. The stretch effect of his arms lets him hit you from almost half a screen away, so be very careful of that. Alright, here he comes.
Yoga fire.
Crap, watch out. When I said Dhalsim could breathe fire, he could also shoot fire towards you, just like Ryu does with his fireballs. And you've got a fireball from Dhalsim coming right at you. Damn it, I was talking too much and you didn't react fast enough. It's okay though, I didn't exactly warn you about that one, but now you know. Okay, get your head back in the game. Dhalsim is going low with a sliding kick. Ah, come on, we've got to fight back. Give him something.
Hadouken! Hadouken!
Blocked. Ugh, come on. Damn, he's got you cornered now. And he isn't even in the corner with you. It's just his long reach that he has. Come on, focus. You have got to get out of there.
Hadouken!
Dhalsim does another sliding kick and slides underneath your fireball. Ooh, this is not good. Dude, we are getting our ass beat. You know what? Pause the game. Just pause the game. Hit your start button. Okay, let's collect ourselves for a moment. Take a breath. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you here for a moment. You are probably gonna lose this fight. Hey, I know, you're doing your best, and that's fine. But here's what I've learned about Street Fighter 2. I don't know if this translates to other fighting games, but this game comes off like chess to me in a way, like I said. You make a move, then your opponent makes a move, and you're maneuvering around the board, right? But you don't know all of Dhalsim's moves yet, and sometimes you won't learn everything that he can do to you in one round alone. And really, that's okay. Like chess, when you learn what moves your opponent has, you can use those to your advantage when planning your own attacks. For now, stop jumping at him like you're trying to win in one move. That is exactly what Dhalsim wants. Just slow down, hold back and down, block the slide, and then walk him towards the corner little by little. Yeah, you're probably going to take some chip damage from that fireball, but that's fine. Be patient and wait for a stretchy limb to whiff, then take your space. And then when you finally get in there, when you finally get close enough, don't let him breathe. Pressure him, throw him, knock him down, and stay on top of him. Dhalsim feels unfair from far away, but up close, he's the one panicking. The only way that you are going to have a shot is if you play boring, you play patient, and make him regret ever saying the word yoga. Got all that? Okay, let's give it a try. Press start and let's get back in the fight.
Fight!
Okay, he opens up with a long-range fireball.
Yoga fire!
Don't jump over this one, just block it. Okay, now walk forward now. Dhalsim throws out a long-range fierce punch. Block that one too. Good. Now, see the arms there? They retract slowly. Use this time. Continue to step in. Yes, we're close now. Give him a light kick to check him. Nice. Now watch out. Here comes another low slide. We need to block low here, so crouch down and hold back. There you go. Now, sweep him back. That's your space. Once he's on his feet, Dhalsim backs up and throws another fireball.
Yoga fire!
Quick, instead of blocking, toss one of your own.
Hadouken!
Perfect! They collide and cancel each other out. Now inch forward again. Dhalsim panics and jumps backwards now, but don't chase him. Just continue to walk him down. The corner is getting closer and closer. Dhalsim realizes this, so he jumps forward this time. Bad move, Dhalsim.
Shoryuken!
Dragon Punch, yes! That's clean anti-air right there, and for some big damage. Now, he's rattled, and he's in that corner. This is where Dhalsim hates life. Go ahead and throw another fireball to pin him in.
Hadouken!
He blocks, but no big deal. Continue to walk up towards him, and now that we're touching him, give him a good old throw. Back on his feet, he throws another desperate fireball.
Yoga fire!
Hopefully some muscle memory's kicking in, because I know what I would do here. Go ahead and jump over that fireball and give him the old 1-2.
You win.
Damn, you actually did it! I have to say, there are some amazing things in this world, but nothing beats a come-from-behind victory, especially against Stretch Armstrong here. Fantastic job, my friend. You'll be a world warrior in no time at this rate. As we start to wind things down and let the adrenaline reside a little bit, I have to say, Street Fighter II can be one hell of an exhilarating ride, but in my short experience with the game, the whole thing can go one of two ways. It can be a magical experience, or it can be a miserable one, depending on how you approach it. My advice, don't play Street Fighter II to beat the game. Play SF2 to learn one cool thing at a time. This game isn't really meant to be a button masher, though you can certainly do that, but it's also not a game that has insane combos like modern fighting games do. The joy that you're going to have with this game comes from those little breakthroughs. Landing your first Dragon Punch on reaction, finally blocking a special move correctly, or realizing that you can bait someone into jumping and then take advantage of that. For me, that's where the dopamine comes from. I'd also encourage you to pick a character that you think is cool and one that you want to play as. Not the best character, not the easiest character. Cool actually matters. The reason being, you'll stick with that character more. You'll stick with Chun-Li because she's fast and stylish. You'll stick with Guile because the sonic boom actually feels powerful. You'll stick with Zangief because pile driving someone into the floor is hilarious. Even though I feel as though some characters are geared towards more advanced play, your attachment to the character will absolutely influence your enjoyment of the game and help you stick with it. That's actually why I like playing as Ryu so much. He's the all-rounder type like I mentioned, and pretty approachable by all, but there's just something I find fun about his moveset. Another thing that I think is important when you play this game, you have to slow down. Unless you grew up with slower fighting games like Street Fighter II, you're probably going to come into this experience thinking speed and aggressive play will win the day. As it turns out though, not always. SF2 is more about space than spectacle. Walk, block, throw a normal attack, notice how far it reaches, learn, adapt. The game opens up when you realize it's about positioning, not about a fireworks display. Sure, special moves can be bombastic affairs, and rightfully so, but they're just another tool in the toolkit, nothing more. Oh, and another thing worth mentioning. You've got to celebrate the small wins. When you first successfully pull off an anti-air maneuver and knock your opponent down to the ground, that is a win. You found a way to block Dhalsim's annoying slide attack? That's growth right there. You lost the round but cornered Sagat for a full 10 seconds? That's incredible progress. This game is brutally honest. It rewards patience and punishes panic, so improvement feels earned. And even though I can't personally speak to this, I know this game would be fantastic to play with a friend. Going against the computer and learning their patterns is one thing, but nothing beats that human interaction. All in all, Street Fighter II is at its most fun when you treat it less like a mountain to conquer and more like a playground to explore. Thinking back, I did originally wonder if this game still holds up today, and after everything I've experienced when revisiting this classic, I think it does. I had a lot of fun with this game, more than I thought I was going to, and I think you would too. If you decide to try this game out for the very first time, or maybe revisit it if it's been a while, I hope you get to experience that spark that I felt. That jolt of electricity after a hard-fought battle. How amazing it feels when you win a match, not because you got lucky, but because you made calculated decisions based on what the enemy was throwing at you. Even if you lost more rounds than you won, I know you'd walk away thinking, Okay, I can see how I'm getting better. That sense of earned improvement is the heartbeat of this game. If you decide to step up and throw down, there's a good chance that you'll leave the experience connected with something important, like you've touched a piece of gaming history. Street Fighter II isn't just nostalgia. It's the foundation of modern competitive games, and while I personally don't understand this specific world, it's hard not to say that I didn't step into something special. When Street Fighter II hits right, it doesn't leave you satisfied. It leaves you hungry. Hungry to land that clean combo. Hungry to prove that you can handle harder challenges. Hungry for just one more match. And with that, our journey has come to an end, my friends. At least for today. This has been episode 78 of the Retro Wildlands Street Fighter II. Thank you all very much for tuning into the show today. I may never be tournament level, hell, most of you listening could probably beat the hell out of me, but replaying Street Fighter II reminded me why I had so much fun with it all those years ago. It's bold, demanding, and just a little unforgiving, but when it clicks, it still feels electric. And sometimes you don't need a complicated experience to remind you how good we once had it. If you like the show today and you want to show it and myself some support, please consider subscribing to the Retro Wildlands on your preferred podcasting platform. I only made it a month and a half into the new year before I had to backpedal on me releasing something once a week this year, but that's okay. You guys have been great anytime I've ever had to pull back due to stuff happening. That said though, make sure you subscribe to the show so you're notified the instant something new drops, whether I'm on time or if I have to make you wait a little bit. You can also follow us over on our social media pages, or you can check out theretrowildlands.com for the latest on the show, check out some mini game reviews and blogs, or even check out some of the videos that I've made or links to podcasts that I've been a guest on. The Retro Wildlands is also part of the SuperPod Network, home of some other amazing video game podcasts and other gaming content, and you can find us over there at superpodnetwork.com. Other than this show, you can check out other awesome shows, such as Chillscape, a chill video game music podcast, Super Ghost Radio, the Pre-Order Bonus Podcast, and more. There's blog posts, videos, and tons of other content, so be sure to check all of that out by heading over to superpodnetwork.com. Now, if you really like the show and you have a little bit of time to spare, I would love it if you could give us a good review or even share the show on social media with your friends. You can leave a star rating for the show over on Spotify, but you can leave that and a written review over on iTunes, Podchaser, Podbean, Podcast Addict, just to name a few spots. Good reviews and shares will help the show appear in more search feeds, but more than that, it'll let me know that you like what it is that I'm trying to do here and that I'm delivering something that you actually enjoy. But, like I say every episode, you are under no obligation to do any of this. Just the fact that you're listening to my show right now is much more than I could have ever asked for, so above all else, thank you for being here. So, what's coming up next? Continuing with our new format, next time we're going to check out a modern game in our next entry into the Expedition Log. While everyone under the sun has probably talked about it at length already, I've been wanting to give Claire Obscure Expedition 33 some time on the show, so that one is coming up next time. I am excited to try and relay to everyone why it is that this game is so special to me, why it took over my life for a little while, and why it is that I am still thinking about this game today. All without spoilers, mind you. It should be a fun episode, and I'm excited to spruce up my thoughts with some music from the game and some few choice moments. After that, it is finally time for me to check out Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly. I planned to play and cover this game late last year before my short hiatus, but now that I'm back, it seems fitting to check it out so close to the game's remake, which should be dropping on March 12th, last I checked. I love horror games, and this entire series is one that I'm very eager to get into for the first time, so make sure you stick around for that. It is going to be one hell of an adventure when I check out Minakami Village, and I would love to have you along for the ride. Until then, my friends, my name is Nomad, and you can find me roaming the Retro Wildlands.